Her wings were trapped and glued shut with time until Human Foreman. Beginning. The scrapyard of Epsilon Outpost. 9 was a graveyard of forgotten civilizations. Rusted starship hulls lay stacked like corpses under the pale light of 2 dying suns. The air smelled of ozone, scorched metal, and oil, a place where time itself seemed to decay alongside the wrecks. Kellen Voss, the human form of the yard, walked between the heaps, his boots crunching over ancient debris. He had been in charge of this yard for 15 years, long enough to stop counting the number of alien relics that had passed through his hands. To him, the galaxy wasn't a wonder anymore. It was a collection of junk. Still, he was careful with his work. Every piece of scrap could hold secrets. Data cores, energy cells, or fragment of history from extinct worlds. The corporation that employed him, Tarek Salvage, paid good money for anything that hinted at alien technology. That morning, as plasma storms rolled across the horizon, Kellen's scanning drone picked up something odd buried beneath a crashed Draxian war frigate. A faint energy pulse. Ancient but alive. Probably a reactor fragment, he muttered. But the reading was strange. It wasn't mechanical. The energy signature pulsed like a heartbeat. Intrigued, Kellen ordered his crew to cut open the section. They were mostly automatons now, AI-driven loaders and cutters that obeyed his neural link. When they pried open the hull, the light that spilled out wasn't blue or red. It was gold. Kellen stepped closer and froze. Inside a transparent cocoon, half buried in crystalline resin, was a being with wings, massive, scaled, and folded tight against his body. The wings shimmered faintly, like trapped sunlight, but they were locked, sealed by the resin. The being's eyes were closed, her body perfectly preserved in suspended animation. By the void, he whispered. It was no alien corpse. It was alive. His scanner confirmed faint biosigns. Very faint. He hesitated. Salvage protocol demanded he report any living find immediately, but something in the creature's face stopped him. The features were not monstrous like most xenospecies. She looked regal. The faint curve of her jaw, the delicate pattern of scales around her eyes, they carried something almost sorrowful. "What are you?" he murmured, touching the crystal casing. And in that moment, the cocoon shivered. A crack spread through the resin. A burst of energy surged through his glove, hurling him backward. His drones flickered out. Static filled his earpiece. The cocoon pulsed again once, twice, then went still. That night, Kellen sat alone in his cabin, replaying the readings. The signature wasn't consistent with any known life form. It was old, ancient enough to predate the Galactic Union itself. He couldn't shake the image of the creature's face. The resin had been laced with temporal energy, time suspension technology, something forbidden since the temporal wars. Someone had sealed her away, not to preserve her, but to trap her in time. He made his decision. Against orders, Kellen initiated a private excavation at dawn. The process took days. The resin was harder than any alloy he had ever cut, and every time his laser touched it, the energy field tried to rebuild itself. But Kellen was patient. He used heat differentials and temporal disruptors 1 microsecond at a time. On the 5th day, the crystal cracked wide open. The alien fell into his arms, limp and cold. Her body was humanoid but taller. Her skin faintly luminescent, silver veins running beneath the surface. The great wings on her back were bound by metallic cords fused to her bones. He laid her gently on a diagnostic table. Machines scanned her rapidly. Temperature near 0, heartbeat irregular, oxygen level minimal. "Come on," he muttered, attaching an oxygen conduit. "Don't die on me now." He injected her with a cell stimulator, then waited. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then her chest rose. Kellen stumbled backward as she exhaled, a sound like wind through glass. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes of gold. She looked at him, her gaze sharp, confused, and filled with 1,000 years of silence. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling like distant thunder. "I'm Kellen Voss," he said softly, "foreman of this outpost. You were trapped. I freed you." Her wings twitched, and she winced in pain. The metal bonds dug deep into her flesh. Kellen reached for his cutter, but she flinched away, curling protectively. "No," she hissed. "You cannot. These are not chains. They are time locks. To break them without the key will unravel my wings and me." He frowned. "Then who locked you like this?" She looked away, eyes filled with ancient sorrow. "My own kind." Over the next few days, Kellen helped her recover. She called herself Seraphel, once a guardian of the Celestials of Arinder, a civilization that had vanished over 50 millennia ago. They were beings who mastered both matter and time, shaping stars and taming dragons that flew between galaxies. But arrogance led to their fall. In their pursuit of immortality, they waged a war with time itself. Seraphel had rebelled against the rulers who sought to freeze worlds in eternal stasis. For her defiance, they punished her, sealing her wings with temporal glue that trapped her forever in an endless loop, unable to move, unable to die. "You've been frozen for 50,000 years, Kellen said quietly. "All that time alone?" "Time does not pass inside a loop," she said bitterly. "Only the pain remains." He looked at her wings, beautiful, fractured things that shimmered faintly even in the dark. Each feather-like plate carried microscopic inscriptions, symbols of time itself. "I can try to remove the locks," he said. You risk unraveling your own timeline, she warned. Your species is not built to touch temporal bonds. Kellen smiled faintly. Lady, I've worked with exploding reactors, plasma leaks, and wormhole scrap. I'll take my chances. He studied the locks for days. The bindings weren't mechanical. They were anchored to time coordinates. Each chain existed simultaneously in the past, present, and future. To break one, he had to collapse its timeline without collapsing hers. Using salvage tech, he built a temporal destabilizer, modified from a derelict Union core. It was crude, dangerous, but it might just work. When he activated it, the room shimmered. Seraphel's wings glowed, their feathers vibrating as if remembering the wind. Then the first lock cracked and vanished. She gasped, tears glinting on her cheeks. You did it. Only one, he said, sweating. 7 more to go. But every lock he broke made reality twist. The yard's clocks began running backward. His drones malfunctioned, replaying actions they had performed hours before. Kellen began to hear whispers, echoes of future voices. He ignored them all, focused on the next lock. By the 5th, his nose bled continuously. Temporal feedback was tearing at his nervous system, but he refused to stop. Seraphel reached for his hand. Enough. You'll die. Kellen met her gaze. You've been alone for 50,000 years. You deserve the sky again. And with one last surge of energy, he broke the final chain. The awakening. The explosion was silent. Time itself folded inward, then burst outward like shattered glass. For a brief instant, Kellen saw flashes. Stars reversing their orbits, empires rising backward, his own childhood fading into light. Then everything snapped back. When he opened his eyes, he was on the floor. Seraphel stood above him, her wings spread wide. They were magnificent, spanning nearly 20 meters, each feather made of pure temporal energy. Colors shifted across them like a living aurora. She moved them gently, experimentally, as if remembering what freedom felt like. Kellen, she whispered, you've done the impossible. He smiled weakly. Guess I'm good with impossible. But the celebration was short-lived. The release had triggered a beacon, a pulse that spread across the galaxy. Old machines buried in the outpost came alive, humming in resonance. Seraphel's face darkened. They will come. Who? The Chronarchs, my creators. They sense my freedom, and they will erase anything that defies their control. The sky outside darkened as portals opened above Epsilon Outpost 9. Massive constructs of gold and metal descended, time ships that shimmered in and out of existence. Get behind me, Seraphel said, spreading her wings. No way, Kellen replied, grabbing his plasma cutter and activating the yard defense cannons. This is my station. She gave him a look, half amusement, half sorrow, and then turned to face the oncoming storm. The battle. The Chronarchs emerged, tall and gleaming, their forms half machine, half time. Their voices echoed directly into the mind. The traitor Seraphel has broken the bond. Time must be restored. Seraphel rose into the air, wings glowing like suns. You enslaved eternity. You trapped me for mercy. No more. She unleashed a burst of temporal energy that froze when the ship's midair. It shattered like glass. But each attack tore pieces of her own timeline apart. She flickered, momentarily fading. Kellen directed the cannons, firing plasma bursts that barely slowed the constructs. He watched as she fought alone, bleeding light, her wings burning with overdrawn power. He couldn't stand it. He ran to the control tower and overrode the station's reactor, setting it to overload. If I can collapse the time field around us, he muttered. It'll trap them, but it'll trap us too. Human! Her voice echoed in his mind. Don't. Too late, he said with a grin. You gave me courage. Time to return the favor. The reactor screamed as it reached critical mass. The Chronarchs turned toward him, realizing too late. The explosion wasn't a fire. It was a time. Everything froze, then rewound, then collapsed into silence. Ending. When Kellen opened his eyes again, he was lying under a blue sky. No suns. No wreckage. No scrapyard. Just grass and wind. He sat up confused. His hands were clean. His uniform gone. Around him, endless plains stretched under a single sun. Her sun. He was home. Or something like it. A shadow fell over him. Seraphel stood there, radiant and smiling, though faintly translucent. Her wings shimmered softly, no longer burning. Where are we? He whispered. A new branch of time, she said. You collapsed the field before they could erase you. The blast rewrote reality. Placed us outside their reach. He blinked. You mean we're free? She nodded. For now. He smiled tiredly. Guess I'm out of job then. She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes. Perhaps, but not out of purpose. He looked up at her wings. You can fly again. And you gave me that, she said, kneeling beside him. A mortal who defied eternity. He chuckled. I just hate seeing something beautiful trapped. Her eyes glowed brighter. Then look upon what you freed. She unfurled her wings. The air shimmered as if time itself bowed. She rose into the sky, leaving trails of golden light across the horizon. Kellen watched her go, feeling the warmth of sunlight on his face. But as she vanished into clouds, a feather drifted down, weightless, glowing faintly with the pulse of time. He caught it in his hand. The feather shimmered, and faintly he heard her voice. "Wherever time flows, I will remember you." He smiled, tucking the feather into his coat. The wind carried the scent of stars. And somewhere above, the guardian of time soared, her wings no longer trapped, but free at last.